Americans think of Singapore as exotic, with its tropical beaches, sultry Malays, and seedy bars. But today, Singapore means success. This little island has gone from slums to skyscrapers, and many Singaporeans are richer than their old colonial masters, the British. The hand of government has shaped and molded each detail of this economic miracle. Every Singaporean knows the rules, and if they're willing to play by them, they will do very well indeed. Singapore, one of Asia's new economic powerhouses, one of the mini dragons. South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan. Centuries of tradition and culture. Devastated in war. Now, the new economic powers of Asia. South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan. These are the mini dragons.
Take a tropical island about the size of Trenton, New Jersey. Stir in equal portions of disciplined people and tough leaders. Season with the spices of China, India, and Malaysia, and a dash of Western technology, and you have the recipe for an Asian success story. What you're about to see is a Singapore that goes beyond the travel brochures and guided tours. A fascinating study on a visionary but authoritarian society. This is Singapore.
Singapore means City of the Lions. 50 years ago, it was a busy British port, a gateway to Asia with an exotic reputation. Today, Singapore is an independent city-state, aggressively marketing itself as the gateway to the future, the Switzerland of Asia. Singapore is already one of the world's 6 top financial capitals, a center of business opportunity and high-tech development. A city with one of the highest living standards in Asia. The multiracial population is disciplined and hardworking. And if Singapore's exotic, slightly scandalous reputation has been replaced with a certain uniformity, that's the way the government has planned it, and most people want it. Education is conducted in English to give children an international advantage, just as computers train them for the fast pace of the future. Singapore has designed itself as a perfect sanctuary for multinational corporations from around the world, free of the little inconveniences that make life less attractive elsewhere. There is no graffiti and little crime. There is no foreign debt. The air-conditioned subways run on time. But now government is worried that the younger generation are being seduced by the easy ways of the West. They're afraid they are losing the cutting edge that has made Singapore a success.
Everyone wants to save to achieve their dreams. Do you agree? You and I, my dear friends, have to listen to people's dreams.
These young moneymakers are being molded and pushed to perform in one of the world's most competitive societies.
You and I, my dear friends, have to make sure those dreams are properly built on the foundation of life insurance. And that is why, my dear friends, you and I, as our speaker said yesterday, must become very professional. Are you going to commit yourself, my dear friends? Yes, I will. Yes, I will ensure that we are professional. Do you agree, my dear friends? Not loud enough. I want this building to come up. Do you agree?
To show the world what Singapore can be.
Singapore uses campaigns to reshape its own society and to create an image for the rest of the world. This new campaign stresses national solidarity and seeks to revive so-called Asian values. It's doing it with the latest Western advertising techniques.
Singapore embarked on campaigns mainly because we want to be very focused in the way we address issues.
Lo Meng Si is a politician. He's come here to see the lion dancers that visit the shopping malls at Chinese New Year, to chase away the demons and attract the tourists. He's also come to meet his constituents. Lo Meng Si is a member of the People's Action Party, the PAP, that has ruled and guided Singapore with a single vision for the past 30 years.
What we would like to see is that our young take all the good values from all societies, whether Oriental or Western, educating our young with moral education so that we will be able to inculcate them to be good and useful citizens in later years.
A growing percentage of Singapore's comfortable and satisfied population doesn't remember the struggles of their parents, the British Empire, the Japanese occupation, the poverty and the race riots. Singapore is so small and so new. The government fears that if people are not constantly reminded of what it means to be Singaporean, the country itself could cease to exist. Singapore has a multiracial population of 2.7 million people. 76% are Chinese, 15% are Malay, 6.5% are Indian. The rest are mostly European, Arab, Eurasian, or Japanese. Without racial stability, government believes Singapore could still go the way of other third world countries, divided by power struggles between different ethnic groups. So, keeping this delicate mix of races unified is a constant challenge. These three young women are best friends. Anita Mohammed is Malay. Basantha Raja Gopal is Indian, and Alice Ong is Chinese.
Hi, Alice. Hi, Anita.
Alice is a flight attendant with Singapore Airlines. Now, her friends Basantha and Anita are applying to become trainees. It is difficult to be accepted, and hopefuls often reapply many times.
All right. Okay, thank you. Welcome. My name's Anita Mohammed, and I'm 22 years old. I left school about 3 years ago, and I haven't got a suitable job for myself, so I'm taking a secretarial course at the moment. My mother is a housewife, and my father's working with British Petroleum in the accounts department. My brother and sister is still in school.
Tell me, why do you want to become a stewardess?
First of all, it's because maybe I want to see the world.
This is my world, I share, always with me, out there.
Such a gentle way about you, all around the world. Wouldn't be the same without you, my Singapore girl.
Singapore Girl is exotic, mysterious, and wholesome. She's built Singapore Airlines into one of the most successful airlines in the world. Like most young airline applicants, Anita and Vasantha still live at home with their parents.
I'm trying to... Yeah, sure.
I grew up in kampong area. That's what we call it, something like a village area in Singapore itself. I would say my life is so much better than my parents because they went through a lot of hardship, and during the early years of my childhood, I can still remember how my father used to make ends meet. And I think it has taught me a lot because I learned how to appreciate life better now and not take it for granted.
Alice is married, but Vasantha is still looking. Jeremy Monteiro is a jazz musician by preference, but he makes his living writing jingles for the advertising industry and patriotic songs for the Singapore government. Jeremy has been invited to a meeting at the government's Psychological Defense Unit. This is an arm of the Ministry of Communications and Information. The director of the Psychological Defense Unit wants Jeremy to enter a song competition for Singapore's 25th anniversary. It is a prestigious competition, and the winner will be personally thanked by the Prime Minister.
This is a Permanent Chow song. Yeah.
I've been involved in government campaign songs for a long time, and if I win this one, it would be nice, because besides producing and arranging for it, I would have been one of the composers.
Jeremy has decided to collaborate with Jim Atkinson, an Australian who's living in Singapore.
Talking like along the line of, are we one people, or we should be one people, or because we're one people, we've done all these things, right?
So I think it should be a smaller sound, even if it's not a solo singer, maybe small group of guys, small group of girls, and build,
Yeah, but you want to make sure that each group of people feels it's part of the total, right? So we need at one stage there to acknowledge there are different races and things.
And I can play quite a bit with that, with instruments.
Yeah.
Bring out all the different instruments.
Right, you get all your Malay.
Indian,
what's that one you do? That what's that thing?
This is the tabla.
Yeah,
sort of thing. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one people, and I guess if we are one people, we are one country, one nation. Something.
Okay.
One people, one nation.
One country. What, nation?
I think nation's better. One country, one nation.
Yeah, nation's a much nicer word, actually. Yeah. And then you can have, one Singapore.
Singaporeans pride themselves on their modern, westernized lifestyle. But when they came to the City of the Lions, Singapore's multiracial population brought with them the traditions of their Chinese and Indian ancestors. Vasantha may be modern and sophisticated, but dressing traditionally and joining in the ritual Hindu homage of Thaipusam is still part of her world. Anita and Alice have not been to Thaipusam before.
Your father or your grandfather came to visit? My grandmother. My grandfather.
The potentially volatile nature of Singapore's racial mix is also reflected in its religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity, and Islam. The government worries about what it describes as aggressive conversion by any of these religions. Its biggest worry right now is Christian and Islamic fundamentalists. A clash could turn Singapore into another Beirut. During the 60s, there were racial and political clashes. Many were killed and hundreds injured. The government quashed the unrest. It used tough powers that have remained part of Singapore's life ever since. The right to detain suspects indefinitely without trial, the death penalty, restrictions to freedom of speech, and government control of the media. Lee Kuan Yew was Singapore's first and only prime minister for 31 years, the longest-serving elected prime minister in the world. Lee Kuan Yew promised to create a better life for his people, and in his tough, autocratic style, he did. In order to hold his fragile island state together, Lee used whatever was most effective, especially the power of the media.
There was a time when people said that Singapore won't make it, but we did.
There was a time when trouble seemed too much for us to take, but we did. We built a nation, strong and free, reaching out together for peace and harmony.
Singaporeans have been building their nation, literally. A vigorous campaign of land reclamation has actually made the island 10% bigger than it was when Lee Kuan Yew took power. Physically, Singapore isn't even big enough to collect sufficient water for its population. It must rely on water piped across from Malaysia. Typically, the Singaporeans have turned vulnerability to advantage. The water they import is impure, so they clean it. And now Malaysia pays Singapore to resupply it with clean water. From the top of the tallest hotel, you can see the entire nation of Singapore. You can also see its neighbors, Indonesia and Malaysia. Singapore is surrounded by 230 million Muslims. If they wanted to, they could swallow the island overnight. But it would be at a cost. Out of a population of less than 3 million, Singapore can mobilize a crack armed service of 250,000 in less than 24 hours.
The only reason they're up there is because of what we do down here.
The international media has arrived to cover the official opening of Asian Aerospace 90, exactly the type of showcase that the government sees as an essential part of its international sales pitch. Invited, armed forces representatives and arms dealers from all over the world, especially from Singapore's Southeast Asian neighbors. This is a mega supermarket of specialists, systems, and machines at the leading edge of high technology. Government-owned Singapore Technologies is selling high-tech weapons systems around the world. Singapore wants to show off its defense capabilities as the best in the region, but it doesn't want to alarm its neighbors either. Still, the fear of being overwhelmed, of being swallowed up by these larger countries, is central to government thinking.
In the air, ground. The sky's the limit.
A New Year gathering of the ruling party, ministers, backbenchers, and the party faithful, celebrating the start of their 31st year in office. In November 1990, Lee Kuan Yew stepped down as prime minister, although he remains the party's secretary general, retaining considerable power. His chosen successor is Goh Chok Tong. Now everyone gets to greet their new prime minister, including Lo Meng-si.
Come and introduce Sydney, my wife, and Lily. We have a busy time signing autograph. Yeah, okay. Okay. All right, come. Yeah, how are you? My batik shirt.
The PAP has remained in power, not simply through popularity. Over the years, much of the opposition has been systematically jailed, publicly humiliated, or disqualified from holding office.
I was telling Peter just now, maybe the first meeting.
And yet, in the last election, non-PAP candidates actually took 40% of the vote. But in the parliamentary election system, that only gave them one seat. The government says Singapore is too small and too fragile to be divided by a critical opposition.
Singaporean likes strong leadership in government. What the government does is that at the national level, it must be in the overall interest of people, even though some of the policies appears to be harsh.
As a member of parliament, Lo Meng-si greets merchants from the People's Republic of China. They reaffirm loyalties and exchange compliments. Singapore and China now have lucrative trade links. In Singapore, the Chinese majority maintains tight control of politics and business. It's the only country in the region where the immigrant Chinese control their own political destiny, and they intend to keep it that way. The wealthy Chinese, with their tight networks of mutual support, have been resented in other countries. In neighboring Malaysia, the backlash against Chinese immigrants has in the past resulted in violence. Lo Meng-si and his government colleagues are determined that such a thing will never happen in Singapore.
What we basically try to do is to learn the bitter lessons of other countries and make sure that we do not follow the same mistakes that some of them made.
Hello, Jim. Yeah, Jeremy here. Listen, I think I've got something for the chorus. The verse is going to take me a little more time to figure out. But you know, when he hears how I'm doing for the chorus, okay, I'll try and play this for you. Okay, I'll try and sing it as well. One people, one nation, one Singapore. That's the way that we will be forevermore. Yeah? Yeah, at this point, everyone's singing. The whole chorus is in, instead, we're thinking of using solo voices in the beginning. We're not sure about that yet. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll just play it for you. I'm not good at singing it.
Singapore is the cleanest and safest city in Asia. You are fined for littering and spitting. You are hanged for drug dealing. But this very comfort and security is now worrying the government. They're afraid that Singapore's brightest students are becoming soft, more interested in job security than building their country's future.
Do you think the environment in Singapore is conducive to developing entrepreneurs? Isn't it better than it was 10 years ago?
Alan Pathmaraja is the general manager of Great Eastern Life Assurance. He's one of Singapore's leading businessmen. He's been asked by the government to try and change the trend, to convince the young they should take risks with their lives and their careers.
The government realized that we have to have a pool of entrepreneurs.
So in other words, what you're saying is, the more secure jobs there are available, then less people will go into entrepreneurship because they want the security of employment.
We actually like to have a good, secure job in one of those big companies after we graduate. So setting up our own business is, to us, we feel it's a bit risky.
So if you have that feeling, then it's not good for the country. That means we'll have all chaps going into multinationals, going into banks, going into life insurance companies, getting secure jobs, and then forgetting about developing your entrepreneurship spirit. And once you get married, you have children. You know, Singapore is encouraging people like you to get married very quickly. Once you get married, then you have a responsibility. Then your risk is greater because you have to look after your wife, your children. Am I right?
Government influence is evident everywhere, from the universities to the docks.
What we are thinking of is that they be treated like Singapore.
Lo Meng Si, as well as being a member of parliament, is also group personnel manager for Keppel Shipyard. He is responsible for liaising with the unions.
If we conduct ourselves properly and that the unions, by and large, are satisfied with the treatment that they receive and they contribute to the productive efforts of corporations, I think that will only encourage more foreign investment. So I agree. I think Lai's point may be correct, Suddenly,
Today's industrial issue between management and the union is the color and style of the workers' boiler suits.
I think we will agree that it will not be white, okay? Then the workers will agree with your gray color, okay? And then we'll work out the timetable. But
the government and industry have worked so closely together that there has been only one strike on the island since 1979, and that lasted only 2 days.
Then the firemen, we agree which one? That they will have the two-piece suit.
Singapore's biggest industrial problem today is a major labor shortage. But the government is reluctant to import more foreign labor. It is almost impossible for these workers to get a permanent residency visa. The government is too worried about disturbing the country's delicate racial balance.
We, the citizens of Singapore, pledge ourselves as one united people.
Regardless of race, language, or religion,
to build a democratic society based on justice and equality.
So as to achieve happiness, prosperity, and progress for our nation.
The original inhabitants when Singapore was just a fishing village were the Malays. Under the British and the East India Company, Singapore grew into an ideal commercial center that controlled the east-west trade routes in Asia. The mass migrations of Chinese swamped the Malays. They retreated into enclaves and were discriminated against. Today, the Malays are still in the minority. Some Malays, like Haj Abdul Qadir, are struggling to take advantage of Singapore's business opportunities.
When I was young, I was staying in a Malay kampong by the seaside. It was a village. And most of the people at that time were fishermen. The life there was very pleasant. A lot of nature around us. Not much money though. It is unlike the way we live nowadays, where people are too busy that they don't have time for each other that much.
Haj Abdul Qadir has good educational qualifications, but he finds it difficult. His business college failed. Now he runs a small consultancy.
Singapore is a country where there's a lot of rat race. One must strive to really earn more and more in order to live in Singapore.
Much of Haj Abdul Qadir's time is spent doing volunteer work as the vice president of the Singapore Malay Chamber of Commerce.
I think every country has problems. In Singapore, for example, we have people complaining about increasing costs and strict fines and summonses, penalties and things like that. These are problems which I think are quite common.
Haj Abdul Qadir's clients are mostly Malay small businessmen like himself. He has recently bought a new apartment, but he barely squeezed in under the racial quota for the neighborhood. The government mandates a specific percentage of each race for government apartment blocks. For the Malays, it's 22%. While it says these regulations are to prevent the creation of ethnic ghettos, the government regulations will also prevent the emergence of Malay-dominated electorates, which would challenge the ruling PAP. In this multiracial society, Malays are still at the bottom of the power structure.
We must say that we are all Singaporeans, and I'm very much Singaporean. But I cannot fail to see that I'm a Muslim. If it is something where being a Singaporean contradicts being a Muslim, where my religion needs me to do a certain thing for the goodness of mankind, of myself, my family, I have to consider myself as a Muslim.
Despite the government's quest for national identity, the Malays are determined to preserve their heritage. Their children attend two schools, the government one in the morning and their own Islamic school in the afternoon.
Ada orang Bugis, ada orang Banjar, macam gitu juga orang Arab. Jadi mereka terdiri daripada golongan Bani Khaza'ah, Bani Hashim, Bani Al-Muttalib, itu keturunan orang-orang Arab. Bashrahil,还有没有？第五个。
Singapore has one of the most competitive societies in the world. Children are pushed hard to perform. Exams start in kindergarten. Success is based solely on merit. If you fail, no one will pick you up. More than 500 hopefuls apply for every Singapore Airlines flight attendant's course, but only a select few are accepted. Alice's friends, Anita and Vasantha, are among the lucky ones.
You're always there across the world. I see you smile, I see you care. Singapore girl, you're a great way to fly.
Okay, as usual, when serving...
I was overjoyed when they called me up to inform me that I got the job, because I failed 2 other interviews, and this was my 3rd try. I consider myself very privileged to get the job, because not everybody makes it through the interviews.
So to try the colors, just apply the foundation close to the yellow to test the color. So for
Well, the best part of being flight attendant, I would say, is dressing up, putting on my makeup, wearing the kabaya and looking good. And I think that gives a bit of confidence because when you look good, you feel good, everything works on perfect.
I know it's a while, ladies, since I saw you the first day, but one of the things I stressed in the first day was to put yourselves into other people's shoes, right? If you think about what other people are feeling like, then you're very much more able to understand what their needs and requirements are if you think about what they're feeling like. So instead of just thinking, okay, she needs an apology, she also could do with some practical help as well, couldn't she? Yes? Good. Very basics of good manners is to remember our please and our thank yous. The basic bottom ground level, if you like, of good manners. And so, ladies, did you all have a good weekend?
Yes, thank you.
The director of the Psychological Defense Unit has invited Jeremy and Jim back to his office.
Thanks for coming here. I must congratulate the two of you for coming up with a nice song. We have put up the song to various types of people and asked them how they felt about the whole thing. And I think most of them feel very happy about the song. So we have decided to make use of the song as the national song, the celebration song for the 25th anniversary.
Great. Very good.
Yeah? Just how did you come up with the song?
Well, actually, it's quite, it's a rather very broad subject at the 25th anniversary. So we were looking around for one particular aspect. And the Prime Minister had made a speech some time ago where he said, were Singaporeans really one people? We felt that this unity of Singapore, all the different races working together, was probably one of the great keys to Singapore's success.
Also, I think we were looking for an emotion that was within every Singaporean, desire to be one people. I think it's something that's there, so we sort of worked on that basis. And then, Jim came up with some great words, and it was very easy to write.
The government believes that it has a responsibility over all facets of life. When statistics revealed that 40% of its most accomplished women were having trouble finding suitable husbands, the government became alarmed, and a campaign quickly followed.
Where is my dream girl?
Where's the man of my dreams?
I spent so much time waiting for her to walk into my life. Just waiting and waiting.
How long should I wait?
Why not reality? You could wait a lifetime for a dream.
In this society, the young are so busy achieving, they have little time left for dating. So the government set up the Social Development Unit, a state-run Cupid for university graduates, organizing dances, boat cruises, and even blind dates.
They have sent me brochures after brochures to attend Social Development Unit functions, but I'm not particularly keen on it. And you go there thinking that you're going to meet people, and it sounds very odd. It's not natural. It's like, for all you know, maybe that guy is yours or that guy is yours. Because it's like an ulterior motive that you have. You don't go just to meet people, but, hopefully to end up with one of them.
People were amused when the Prime Minister raised the subject of many of our women, educated women, not marrying. They are obviously the best people to be able to bring up good children. The trends indicate that something, if not done early, may pose problems for Singapore. Obviously, when it was first raised, it was met with tremendous criticism as to why we are interfering in the private lives of individuals. Why don't we allow people the choice as to whether they want to get married early, late, or not at all? But I think after a while, the social development work in trying to bring the different sexes together, and if one speaks to the young ladies these days, they understand the problem.
We all need introductions to help us along in life. In business.
Nice to meet you, Jane.
To get better service. Even to get a good mechanic. So why not an introduction to someone who might be able to make life better for you?
Peter, this is Pauline.
Hi, pleased to meet you.
Hello. Actually, Liz has told me quite a bit about you.
Oh, bad, I'm sure. After all, it's just an introduction. The rest is up to you.
I think what is important is not so much that campaigns are being mounted, but more important the results that has been brought about through the campaigns.
The government is concerned that if Singapore's best and brightest don't get married and have children, the country itself could be in danger. This is the Ministry of Health's latest campaign to encourage professional families to have more children.
You may give your child the best things money can buy, but the most precious gift of all is a brother or sister.
Whether we could produce a new TV commercial.
A few years ago, when the population was growing rapidly, the government message was the reverse: have only 2 children or less. Sometimes campaigns backfire, like that one. The Chinese middle class obeyed, but the Malays and Indians did not, and the population mix looked in danger.
Family life is important to men, just as important to women.
We try to...
This government committee is deciding whether the next round of advertising should be aimed towards the men or the women.
Sitting around. The majority, the problem is a lot of women are just not prepared to have big families. I always make a joke that I ask my patient, how many children your mother got? She said 5. So don't you want to break her record? She said, no way, 2 is more than enough. That's the common statement that go because they've been brainwashed all these years. But really the crux of the problem is not so much the man as the woman.
Yeah. You know, the emphasis must be on balanced responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah. It cannot be just, you know, as it was in the past. Then with women out at work, it's going to be very difficult for them to take on and have additional children if they are going to be expected to do everything in the house and the man, you know, wait by and have even his slippers brought to him. So it's going to be quite difficult.
Right. That one I go along with you, that as far as the home goes, there must be balanced responsibility.
It's not necessarily going to look like the board because children can't always perform to order.
The committee has finally agreed on an approach. The next step is to hire an advertising agency.
Say, well, we just ditch that scene because it won't work. So it's absolutely essential that we've got some flexibility on this. And you've got some problem with the swimming pool, I gather.
Why do you object to the...
Because the pool, although we have public pools, the scene might give you some kind of a impression that it is a private club pool, which is a little too upmarket for the general population we want to aim at.
Social engineering in the past was more direct. The poorly educated could qualify for cash payments if they had themselves sterilized. The approach today, directed at the well-off, is gentle encouragement to breed.
Families are fun. Life means much more. When you're dad and mom, you just can't beat it. So come join us, come. Families are fun. You've got a place that's deep inside their hearts, warm and tender. From the very start, it lasts a lifetime. It'll never part. Fun. Families are fun. Families are fun.
The pro-family campaign started in 1987. The government says it's too early to tell if they're having any effect. Alice is the perfect Singapore girl. She is married to Darren, a commodities broker. She doesn't smoke, spit, or litter. She is already working as a stewardess for Singapore Airlines, and she intends to have a family.
My family is very important to me because I feel that my parents have gone through so much in life just to bring myself and my brothers and sister up. So the least we could do for them is to look after them when they're older.
Hey guys!
The latest government campaign is, well, it's encouraging women to have 3 children at least. Even before the campaign came out, I've always wanted to have a family of 4 because I think that would be nicer than having 2 or 1 child in the family.
Lord, we want to thank you for this occasion that we can gather as a family. Lord, we pray that, Lord, you will abide in our hearts. And even, Lord, right now as we partake this food together, Lord, we pray you bless this food in our body for health, for strength, Lord. We want to give thanks in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Let's start
Happy New Year. Long life. Next year will we have little nieces and nephews?
Alice and Darren have been married for 3 years now. If Alice has 2 children before she reaches the age of 28, she will be rewarded with a special tax rebate of 20,000 Singapore dollars. Delivery and hospital expenses for a 4th child are tax deductible.
A bundle of joy, and a marriage is now complete. Experience the wonder, a baby that's part of you.
She's got your nails.
But she looks like you.
Children are a precious gift, so enjoy having them while you're young, because there's no other experience like it.
Children, experience the joy while you're young.
This is the head office of the Housing Development Board, known as the HDB. Alice has come to order a new apartment. It is all one-stop shopping. Everything from picking out what you like to collecting the keys. But there are catches. What you choose may still be in the planning stages, and to qualify, you must plan to marry within 6 months. Housing was one of Lee Kuan Yew's first priorities. He set about converting overcrowded squalor into high-rise communities. Now, over 80% of Singaporeans live in HDB flats, and the majority are owned by those who live in them.
Good morning, HDB. Can I help you, please?
All elevators in HDB housing are connected to a central control. Elevators stop automatically to trap delinquents who have urinated between floors. They are caught and publicly humiliated. In Singapore, you can be fined $100 for failing to flush a public toilet.
So we had some discussions.
Now, older HDB blocks are being torn down and replaced with housing units designed for the new image of Singapore: clean, hygienic, and efficient.
Then how do you maintain the
Many other young nations have enormous international debt, but Singapore has none. It financed its development through an amazing government enterprise, the compulsory pension scheme called the Central Provident Fund. Alice, like every employee, contributes to the fund. Each month, about 40% of everyone's salary is banked with the government. This enormous sum is then lent back to home buyers at a very low interest rate.
2 to 0.
In effect, the government is running a curious form of socialism, which involves telling people how they must save and spend their money.
Hello, Darren. Hi. We here? Yeah, we got the flat on the 11th floor. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got to wait 2 years before we get it. They sent us a letter to inform us about it.
Singapore continues to promote itself as a city ahead of its time, specializing in service industries and information technology. It was Lee Kuan Yew's vision to create this oasis for multinationals, and it's built Singapore's success. But with Lee Kuan Yew stepping aside, a new generation of leaders must carry on his vision.
In 1984, he was elected to Parliament. Following this, he was appointed Minister of State in the Ministries of Trade and Industry and in Defence. He headed an economic committee which recommended measures which successfully pulled Singapore out of the recession. In 1987, Brigadier General Lee was appointed to his present posts of Minister for Trade and
Lee Hsien Loong is Lee Kuan Yew's son.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier General Lee Hsien Loong, Minister for Trade and Industry.
It is generally accepted that he will one day become Prime Minister.
And persuaded foreign investors to set up manufacturing plants.
It's graduation day for Anita and Vasantha.
I'm really, really excited because I'm going to be one of the Singapore girls. And I'm going to be putting on the uniform, the sarong kebaya, and I'm going to get to see the world. And it's really one of my dream jobs.
Last but not least, Vasantha Rajagopal.
Jim, you hear the good news yet? About the song? Oh, she called you. How about that? Yeah. Yeah, they're talking about, you know, really doing a really big production of the song.
We built a nation with our hands, the toil of people from a dozen lands. Strangers when we first began, now we're Singaporeans. Let's reach out for Singapore, join our hands forevermore. One people, one nation, one Singapore. That's the way that we will be forevermore. Every creed and every race has its soul and has its place. One people, one nation, one Singapore.
A bit too much hype? A little too much social engineering for the taste of most Americans? Perhaps. But remember, those who don't like it are perfectly free to leave. And with a standard of living more than 4 times what it is across the causeway in Malaysia, most Singaporeans are delighted with their lives. Compared with much of the world, it's a pretty benevolent form of control. Think about it. There are plenty of Americans who would happily accept the sort of controlled society shaped by Lee Kuan Yew in return for excellent schools, an almost crime-free environment, and wonderful employment opportunities. In some ways, living in Singapore is rather like living in an upscale American suburb, close to the squeaky clean shopping mall. Everything seems cellophane wrapped, just a little too clean and tidy to be real, like Disney World. It's not too different from a small town in America with all its pluses and minuses. Everyone knows each other's business. Gossip spreads faster than the common cold. And those who don't fit into the expected standards of behavior are unlikely to succeed. The new Prime Minister, Goh Chok Tong, is taking a gentler approach. He encourages more participation and discussion. But don't dismiss Lee Kuan Yew. He is still a major force, serving as senior party cabinet minister and head of the ruling party. Plus, Lee's son is now deputy prime minister. Singaporeans like to joke that their country is run by the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. In our increasingly electronic world, the Singapore connection is an important part of our lives, although most Americans don't realize it. This phone, like most of the home models of AT&T, is made in Singapore. So are lots of other everyday products with American brand names like Apple computers, Motorola pagers, and Hewlett-Packard printers. But only the sophisticated products are made in Singapore, where wages are among the highest in Asia. Today, Singapore is the Asian headquarters for a network of factories in cheaper nearby countries like Malaysia and Indonesia. It's planning to be a global city of the future, a center for high-tech and high finance in Southeast Asia. Now that it's an economic success, Singapore faces one more challenge: to make its peoples, Chinese, Indians, Malays, more cohesive. The government is preparing a list of so-called values that it wants all Singaporeans to share. No doubt, another commercial campaign will follow. Meanwhile, Singapore is keeping a watchful eye on its neighbors in the region. It understands only too well the lessons of Kuwait. Rich, small countries can be ripe for takeover by envious, powerful neighbors. Plus, what is better than an outside threat to unify a country? Singapore is also trying to create a triangle of growth so that the entire region can share in the economic miracle. Singapore is recruiting American, European, and Japanese companies to set up manufacturing plants in nearby countries. In this way, Singapore itself is fostering the next generation of mini dragons and ensuring its own long-term security. Next time on Mini Dragons, Hong Kong. How is this economic giant facing the reality of a Chinese takeover in 1997?
Hong Kong faces an uncertain future upon its return to China in 1997. Can the third largest economic center retain its financial superiority? Find out. Tune in for the final installment of Mini Dragons tomorrow night at 9, Monday afternoon at 1:30, or next Wednesday at this time.
I'm Rod Paul. A pending lawsuit asks whether property taxes are the fair way to pay for education. We examined this issue from all sides. Thursday night at 7:30.
Funding by Financial Guarantee Insurance Company, helping provide financial strength, security, liquidity, FGIC AAA bond insurance, tomorrow's security.